I'm here today with the founder and chief executive of Alpha, Morgan Tillbrook. Morgan, hello.
Hi.
Congratulations on another fantastic set of results. If you had to put them down to one particular thing, what would it be?
I'd put it down to the people pulling together, working as a team, stepping up to the challenge. Ultimately, delivering for each other, because we are a team and there's a lot of shareholders here. So yeah, it's got to come down to the people, without question.
And what a year it's been. Unbelievably challenging for businesses around the world. Obvious question, how did you get to grips? How did you cope with COVID?
Well, it's been a long time, hasn't it? Over 12 months. Initially there was some big challenges, some very big challenges. Once we overcome them, it was really about making sure there was strong alignment across the organisation, because naturally we went from working in this office and all being together to suddenly being remote. Yeah. And the biggest challenge there was, how do we make sure that we progress and move forward as a business, not just get by. Yeah. And I think we did a good job of making sure that we did actually progress through the last 12 months as opposed to just getting by, and that come down to putting a lot of energy and effort into aligning, to making sure everyone knows what they should be doing, what they're working towards, expectations. And of course, supporting and motivating each other in a difficult environment.
Excellent. So one final quick look back across that year. In terms of COVID hitting the clients, there must have been a lot of uncertainty. How did you help them navigate through that? What did you learn?
Well, I think firstly our clients trusted us. Yeah. I think that's important, and often in high volatility, people can look at it as an opportunity to make money, as where our primary focus was helping businesses get through the crisis in the best possible way. Yeah. Naturally, the biggest challenge for our clients was the lack of visibility. They didn't know what their orders were going to look like. So therefore, it's very difficult to hedge their risks or to make their payments. So helping him meet those challenges or navigate them was our biggest focus. And H1 we obviously saw a big kind of a cliff effect in Q2 from a revenue point of view, but once we got over Q2 and we helped clients get a good handle on the landscape, we powered on through H2 and had a pretty strong second half of the year.
Good. So how about now, looking down this year, 2021? What do you see in terms of turbulence still to come, particularly with the backdrop of the pandemic?
I think there's some turbulence in regards to businesses that have been maybe relying on furlough. Some CBILS and so forth. So I think from a credit environment point of view, we need to be prudent and manage that risk. But outside of that, I feel we're pretty much trading as normal now. As I said, we had a really good start, excellent start to the year. Yeah. I think that touch wood that the pandemic is coming towards the end of its disruptive nature. Towards the business environment. I think we're pretty good for this year, but obviously touch wood.
Good.
That it doesn't resurge.
So speaking of turbulence, tell me how you weathered the storms of Brexit. We have to talk about it.
Yeah, Brexit interesting actually. Talking to the investors over the past week, we look at two events last year, or two scenarios which were temporary, one being COVID and one being Brexit. And both events made it difficult for business to forecast. Yeah. COVID, to the nature of by nature of obviously the economy being affected so greatly across all areas, but Brexit in relation to not knowing up until Christmas Eve whether we had a trade deal on goods. Yeah. So a lot of our clients were delaying decisions leading up to Christmas Eve, and obviously then into this year as they got some more visibility. But we feel we're over that now. We did have some disruption in the first few months of the year, whereby we didn't have our regulation license in Europe, and that only came through in the beginning of March. I think it was very difficult for us to make the decision to put boots on the ground and open up a European office, a regulatory base, so to speak, unless we know we needed it. So we took the entrepreneurial view of, a deal will most probably get done. So we'll do 95% of the work up to Christmas. So then we can just push the button to get regulated in the new year if we needed to. And obviously we did need to, because financial services were slightly missed out on the negotiating process by the government. So therefore we had a couple months delay, and that meant that we couldn't service some of our client base, but the majority we could service.
Got it. I want to talk a bit more about the broader picture. I noticed Matt Knowles has taken a step back from the board, clearly a very important person to the business, and he's sort of evolved into a new role, strategic advisor. What's going on there?
Well, Matt's been with the business now for a few years on the board. He has some great experience because he's led a financial services firm and quite a significant one, so and a very successful one. So he's got some great experience there. He also sits on an investment committee of a VC, venture capitalist fund called Tempo Cap. So again, he has a very broad set of experience. And of course, being on Alpha's board, good public market experience for a few years with us. So he really understood the business. He got the culture, and he's got a great strategic mind. And during the pandemic, it gave me time to reflect because we slowed down a bit and realised that I think I could do with a coach internally in the business, and I felt the business could do with some additional senior strategic mind, another strategic mind in the business that could help us mature how we go about planning, our growth and how we allocate our capital so we can invest long into the future. And Matt just, seemed to be the ideal person. Outside of now, I've got to find someone to replace him on the board, so I've got a job to do. He was without question the ideal person to bring across, and he's already building strong relationships across the business and proven himself to be very valuable.
Excellent, right. So I want to pick up on just a couple of things that came through in the results. First one around some of the turns of phrase that you use, particularly you talk about remaining client-centric, operationally agile, but particularly protecting your culture at all costs.
Yeah.
Say a bit more about what you mean.
On the culture piece, I think if I rewind actually back to the middle of last year, Matt came off the board and we started to do a lot of strategic work and therefore diagnosing what our biggest challenges are as a business. Yeah. Challenges at the PLC level as we want to grow the business and expand, and also challenges within the divisions of the business. And I feel our biggest challenge as we scale is how do we keep complexity at bay, and how do we therefore keep complacency at bay also. I think complexity and complacency are just two natural occurrences as a business scales and gets larger. So we feel that's something that we really need to protect, and culture, operational agility, and being client-centric. They're just areas that I think typically start to get neglected and fall by the wayside as a business scales, and we feel that they're three of our biggest challenges that we need to continue to focus on, so we can keep winning, right? Because we like winning. So
now, Morgan, I read in the report that decentralisation is important for the business. Can you say a bit more about what that means in practice?
Yes. So in practice, the benefits of decentralisation is focusing your efforts on a particular proposition for a client. And over the years, the business has scaled and therefore increased its offering. And therefore we feel that potentially there's some compromises in regards to how we deliver a service, how our teams function, because they're servicing multiple clients types and multiple services. So decentralisation is kind of dividing them up into two key focuses. And therefore that we have people, process and technology, which is relevant to each client type, and therefore we can drive better innovation, more efficiency, and a better experience for our clients. It basically, in a nutshell, it's about focusing on your clients and making sure that everything's relevant. And I think that when you zoom out and you look at it on a more holistic basis, it's not about just growth for growth's sake. It's about winning. Because if you're winning, that's enduring growth. It's sustainable. And by decentralising it enables us to truly focus on those individual clients, what they need, and therefore make sure that our differentiation is on point. That enables us to go further and deeper with those clients. And therefore, of course, drive better acquisition, better retention, and of course, better returns for the business. So ultimately, that is what decentralisation is about, and there's lots of benefits to do it. So
I would say what supercharges that in practice is trust in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's also a very useful tool to elevate talent. By change the management structure by decentralising and transferring urgency onto those individuals. Giving them the accountability to step up and deliver, and it makes it gives the PLC, so to speak, more scalability. I don't want to be the CEO of a mini conglomerate, and I feel that there's only so much I can stretch myself. So therefore, it's better to decentralise and have and have other leaders within the business and in other divisions. And I think I know that as the business scales, it will be the model that we choose to pursue. And I think ultimately, there are reasons why it plays to our strengths. Also, we're a business that focuses on high value clients. Yeah. We're not a business where we've got low margins. And if we were a low margin business and a mass client basis business, then it might make sense to centralise for the efficiency. But actually, when the type of business that we are and the margins that we drive and the quality of service we deliver, actually, the additional cost of decentralising they pale into significance and the value that you can generate.
Isn't the other byproduct that you become a more agile business by doing that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I probably missed that out. If I zoom back out even further, decentralisation all came out the back of us doing some diagnosis, around our strategy work back in June, and looking what our biggest challenges were as a business when it comes to scaling. It was, avoiding complexity because it breeds complacency. And when you are a mini conglomerate and you try to create all the efficiencies by bolting everything together, you end up with a very complex estate. So yeah, by dividing it out, it creates real alignment across the team, real clarity. You can see the woods from the trees. Everything becomes pointy and relevant, easier to measure, easy to celebrate. Yeah. It's even easier for teams to it's hard to celebrate success if everything's bundled into one, isn't it? When you start breaking it out, it makes it easier. And so I think it's the benefits go on and on. They really do. So, and I feel it's really important that we're doing it now. Yeah. I think a lot of businesses, maybe don't have the growth built in, that they're worried about the additional costs, so therefore they sacrifice making the decision, or they will just wait too long. And I think we'll look back at this as one of the best decisions we made.
What can you tell me about some of the investments that the company's going to be making, particularly over the next year?
Over the next year, well, to be honest with you, we've got enough on our plate at the moment. I think at the moment, if we reflect back on our previous investments, we are delivering on them. Yeah. All of them are profitable now, apart from Holland, which only launched just under a year ago. Hopefully that will be profitable this year. So I think we have huge amounts of growth runway within our existing investments. So I think doubling down on them and making sure we deepen our differentiation is going to be key. I think completing our decentralisation plan this year, I think will be key. We hope to complete that by the end of H1. So I think this year is going to be about doubling down on differentiating in our existing investments and expanding into that runway and executing the decentralisation plan.
I think of it already as quite an international company. We touched briefly on Brexit. How confident are you that you can attract who you need from where you need?
How confident? Attracting talent is difficult. We're in a competitive world. We may have a good brand and we're a great growth story, but it's a big world and trying to find the talent is not easy. And actually, if I'm honest with you, most of our talent comes from us looking in weird and wonderful places and finding the right type of individual that's at the right time in their life, that they want to step up to the plate and and commit to a project or a journey like we're on. So often we are looking for the more nascent individuals that we can elevate, but even then it's pretty difficult to find. And
could you call that quite proactive, your approach, do you think?
I think we're definitely proactive. I think we're becoming more and more proactive. I think we have to, as the business gets bigger, the challenge only gets bigger to find talent without compromising and diluting your talent density, so to speak. So, we've got 4 or 5 people now in the recruitment team, solely focused on hiring salespeople. Wow. Yeah. So that's the level of commitment we put into it.
Can I stay with the subject of the team? In the results, we've seen that a number of the team have seen their options vest, particularly very recently. And I just wonder what that means to you as a founder, as a chief exec.
Yeah, it means a lot. It's delivering on the promise. When you issue share options to people, it's with on the basis of the business growing and hitting growth targets. So there's always an element of skin in the game from their side, but the business being able to come together and to deliver, especially in a pandemic year, it's quite heroic, really. They had to hit 20% growth to get the share vesting last Friday. So it's pretty heroic effort to achieve that. So I'm very proud of the team. I'm very pleased for them to be able to share in some of the rewards. And it's also great for the team that are on schemes that vest later into the future or next year, for example, that see the vestings occur this year. So it's very motivational.
And on a personal level, it must be quite potentially life-changing.
Yeah, for the individual, absolutely. I find it quite life-changing, to be honest with you, because I get a lot of pleasure out of seeing them change their lives. So it's life-changing for everybody in some ways, but absolutely for them. So lots of people were putting deposits down on houses, and you know, and all sorts. And but that's what it's about. It's about being a growth business that can share some of those rewards, not just with the external shareholders, but people inside too. But getting the balance right, obviously.
And speaking of that balance, I noticed that you have locked yourself in for I think the next 3 years.
Bit of a habit, this.
Yeah. So tell me what's going on.
I think, to be honest with you, when we IPO'd, I locked in for 3 years, which was unheard of. It's really, you know, I don't think it has. I think it is unheard of in the AIM market. Why did I do it? I think I did it to show the investors that put their faith in us that I'm committed to the business and I'm long term. You know, I'm deeply committed to this project, this journey, and it just felt natural again. Like 3 years later down the line, you know, why wouldn't I want to also make that statement again to our investors? But you know, just as importantly, if not even more importantly, is to our people. Yeah. You know, I think, you know, if I've got, you know, the team that have shares vesting next year, for example, you know, it's pretty motivating for them to know that I'm locked in for 3 years. Yeah. Knowing that that's how much I care about the growth of this business.
Can I ask you particularly about some of the investors you've managed to attract? Lion Trust, Soros, Bailey Gifford. How do you think you've managed to attract such strong investors?
A lot of those investors that you've just mentioned are real long-term investors. They're growth funds that understand cultures, understand, you know, the value of differentiation. So they understand our business. I think that's first and foremost, and I think that they like the way we operate. You know, I'm not making it about me, but you know, I think the 3-year lock-in sends a clear message to them that we are a long-term focused business that isn't going to cut corners. You know, and obviously some of the names there, Bailey Gifford and Lion Trust, they're more, you know, relatively new investors. So they've obviously been watching the growth story of the business. They've watched how we handled, you know, the start of the pandemic. So you know, I think it's how we operate as a business that they like, and delivering on our strategy. You know, we've made investments and we've delivered on them. So I think that investors like to see, you know, track record of delivering and doing what you're saying you're going to do, and also, you know, it's important to under promise, over deliver. I think you know, that's how you build a reputation in the market of being consistent.
Yeah. So final observation on you personally, Morgan. You're not only the chief exec, you're also the founder. I just wonder if you think that makes a difference.
I think it has to make a difference. I don't. Businesses of this size wouldn't often potentially have a shareholder as large as me if it wasn't a founder. So obviously, being a large shareholder, public business has its benefits in our ability to stay agile. You know, make decisions that matter. But I also think ultimately, I think a founder, not all founders, but I think when you've got this far, you know, founders in my position care deeply about their business and their people. If I did this for money, I would have sold the business to private equity years ago, or I would have not locked in. It's not just about money. It's a nice byproduct.
So what is it then? What is now getting out of bed in the morning?
I think it's the team. I do it to be part of something. It's a journey. It's learning every day. It's growing every day. Seeing the team learn and grow every day. You know, seeing people step up. You know, the guys that went to Holland to launch a new division. Seeing people grow and flourish through the business and giving them the opportunity to spread their wings and deliver. That's, you know, it's, how can you get bored of that? Like, you know.
So give me your sense of perspective now. It's Alpha's a £500 million business. Where do you think this company can go?
I get asked that question a lot, and actually, you know, by investors. And it's a very difficult question to answer. I think that there's huge growth potential in our existing investments. I think my primary focus is staying true to our principles: cash rich, debt free, focus on high value clients, high touch tech, high touch service, and to decentralise so we can stay dynamic and stay agile and provide an environment that talent enjoys, you know, to work in, and we can give them the opportunity to move to Holland or Canada or launch a new division. So I think, you know, it's easy to say what we'll look like in 5 years than what the growth potential is. And I think we'll look like how I just described, and therefore our ability to grow will be unhindered.
Interesting.
But yeah, significantly larger than we are today. I feel more comfortable doubling the business today than I did doubling the business when it was 100 million.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I genuinely do, and I think that comes down to being surrounded by great people.
Yeah, and you feel that sense of confidence.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's also, I would say I used a way to describe it on the roadshow. I said to the investors, I feel cash rich and calm. And the business is in a very profitable place. It's very cash generative. We have a lot of nascent investments that are delivering. And because of that, we're not worrying about growth in 2021, 2022. So now a lot of the strategic meetings are thinking about much further into the future. And because of that, I feel quite calm.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's enabling us to ensure that management bandwidth isn't being stretched.
Yeah,
because that's
sense.
key. If you want to make good investments, it's really important not to stretch management bandwidth. So I feel that we are, we're really well positioned in regards to the talent we have around us and our investments that we've placed. So the key now is just to be prudent and smart in the future investments we make. Hence why I brought Matt into the business. And a lot of that's going to come down to having headspace. Yeah.
One thing I do notice in an industry that can be slightly fickle, you keep clients for a very long time.
Try to, yeah.
So, well, you do it very well. Do you mind me asking what you think a secret to that is?
That's going to come down to being aligned to the client's needs and interests, and that comes down to the culture. That's one of our biggest USPs in the business, that we're not a typical sales business looking to win the deal. Since day dot, we'd never walk around the sales floor trying to hit a monthly quota. Like we'd accept whether we'd hit a month or a quarter, and as a byproduct of what our clients would do in flow. It would never be let's try and bring that flow forward. I think it's playing the long game. Yeah, putting the client first, not chasing a target, not chasing a number, listening to the client, understanding the client, and we get that feedback all the time from clients. All the time. You're so different to talk to. Like you know.
What do they say?
They just say we have confidence that you have our interests at heart. That we don't feel being sold to. We're having business conversations, not sales conversations. That's one we hear a lot. We're having a business conversation, not a sales conversation. Yeah. And I think that creates trust, belief in that we care about the client outcome. Yeah. And you can't scale that unless it's deep rooted into your culture. Yeah. Deep rooted. Yeah.
Hence that desire to preserve that at all costs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can I ask you quickly about another type of upstart? You're now a very significant business. To what extent do you worry that it'll be the startups of today and tomorrow that will start nipping at your heels and really challenging you? It must be something that's crossed your mind.
Yeah, and I think a message to them would be that Alpha is obsessed about staying agile and protecting our culture and being client-centric. And they're kind of the USPs that a startup has. It's easy to be client-centric when you're a startup. It's easy to be agile. It's easy to have a strong culture when you have 5 people in an office. Try doing it when you have 200. It's not easy, but we are committed to doing it. So if we carry on doing that with the size of our balance sheet, our capabilities, our blue chip share register, there's the talent base we already have, which is incredible. Of course we need to fear them because it's healthy to fear them. But this is our perch to fall off, so to speak. So I'm on I'm on that perch, and we'll defend. And I think the answer is just keep focusing on making sure we have the same benefits of what a startup has, but way more capabilities. Yeah, got it. And then they'll carry on fearing us, and that's what we need to obsess about, and that's what I do obsess about.
When I hear you talk about the business, I get a sense of, let's not call it obsession, but very keen interest in A, the client, but B, not getting bogged down, not getting encumbered.
Yeah, I think absolutely, because I wouldn't want to be the CEO of a business that wasn't entrepreneurial, and that comes back to decentralisation. If we want to scale and we want to deliver on those points you just made, we have to trust people, we have to elevate them, and therefore decentralise, and that will enable us to sustain that environment. That is paramount.
You're attracting talent, you're developing talent. What would you say to your team at this moment in time? What's it important for them to know?
I think I say this every year. I think it's important for them to know that the growth journey is still in its infancy. I think it's easy for people to feel a bit like Amazon stock, right? It's been really easy 10 years ago to say, oh, look, it's already rallied so much, but I think so. How do I ensure that the team believe or have belief in the fact this is the start of our growth journey, that we have significant capabilities, and we'll continue to share rewards with the team and recognise talent and give them opportunities. Just belief. Continue believing in the journey, because it's still early on. That would be what's the most important message I want to give to them.
Excellent. Well, we will follow that journey with interest. Morgan Tillbrook,
Brilliant.
great to see you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah.